Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about Kriya Yoga, Dhyana, and Bhakti. So Kriya Yoga is a particular type of meditation practice that is very effective for getting into an internalized state to start to experience meditation. And Kriya Yoga comes from the originator of Kriya Yoga is Lahiri Baba or Lahiri Mahashai. And when one starts to get into these internalized states, one is starting to go through a particular type of process in meditation. The first aspect of one's meditation sadhana or spiritual practice is an internalization, and in yoga this is referred to as pratyahara. So if you know anything about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, there are steps in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras that lead to deeper and deeper states of meditation. The first aspect is the yama niyama, so the moral do's and don'ts would help to guide one's conduct in life to make one fit to start to do meditation. When one is ready to do meditation, one engages in asana, which is to be in a stable position for meditation. As well, the next stage or next aspect of the yogic process is the pranayama. So one engages in a process of intentional breathing. And in Kriya Yoga, we use Kriya pranayama, which is a particular type of intentional breathing that stimulates or leverages our parasympathetic nervous system to start to bring us into a low idle state. It basically slows down our heart rate and slows down our breath, and our breath and heart start to become in resonance with each other. We start to experience then signs of sense withdrawal, which Patanjali called pratyahara, which means internalization. So you start to get these tingling feelings throughout your body, and your body eventually disappears, and you start to go into deeper states of awareness, and what we may talk about as absorption. And so what can happen in Kriya Yoga is that you start to get the low idle state happening, you start to experience signs of this freeze response of the pratyahara happening, your breath starts to become more and more slight, and then it disappears, and you're drawn into a state called Dhyana, which is an internalized concentration. The body is basically receded from the awareness, or it may feel like a shadow, it may feel as if you're inside a giant eggshell, etc. The body feels different. And you start to lose awareness of your bodily sensations, and you go into this deep meditation. And you start to then go into states of absorption. And so I want to explain a little bit about the absorption process and how that relates to bhakti. So bhakti is a Sanskrit word for devotion. And there are different kinds of Kriya Yoga schools, or different particular Kriya Yoga schools that use the idea of devotion in their practice. Now, when one has a religious inclination and one is involved in worshiping one's Ishta Devata, which is one's concept of the divine, one may choose to do different approaches to this. You know, some people may have a particular idol that they have, or they have an altar, right? And so they may be using some sort of prayer process. They may be chanting, right, to help to bring up sort of a divine fervor, if you will, and an emotional response to one's feeling of that connection with the divine, trying to create it through emotions. As well, people may involve themselves in japa, and japa is a way of internally reciting, usually a mantra inside. It can be very simple, like Om Rama, Om Krishna, and so on. That being the focus around which one's meditation revolves. And so there are some Kriya Yoga schools that advocate for a projection of one's devotion towards one's Ishta. And we know that in yoga, really getting into deeper states of absorption is very much about going beyond one's mental concepts. The schools that involve themselves in trying to connect and project their devotion outwards in meditation are actually going against the current of the absorption process. And what I mean by that is that it's counteracting the effects of meditation as a best practice for going into internalization, for going into deeper states where one can have true realizations. And the way that I can explain this is in terms of the absorption process itself. So, if you've been involved in Kriya Yoga, you may have heard the term paravastha. And paravastha is the after effect poised state of Kriya, meaning what you experience after you have done, or during, sometimes during you doing your Kriya techniques. Now, the main technique in Kriya Yoga is the Kriya Pranayama. And so, if one is engaged in Kriya Pranayama, and then one relaxes after the techniques into paravastha, things start to happen. You start to experience the pratyahara happening, right? So tingling sensations throughout the body. And then your mind becomes more clear or more calm, and your breath becomes more calm, and you start to experience stronger signs in the body of paravastha. So initially, at the beginning, what people tend to experience is the sensation of almost a bodily rapture. And this can be interpreted in terms of like a Kundalini awakening, where you can feel all sorts of energetic movements and so on, right? The mind may be active still, so one may be distracted, the thoughts may be moving around, but this overwhelming feeling of this euphoria or bliss coming up through the body. And from there, one may also experience a sense of this love or this joy that starts to emanate from one's state of awareness. This is really the first stage of paravastha, the first stage of absorption. And so as the state of absorption progresses, what happens is the sensations of the bodily rapture, the bodily bliss, and so on, start to fade into the background, and this feeling of joy starts to manifest throughout one's meditation in more predominance. And so, as well, one's mind starts to become more still. So you're progressing from a bodily bliss and some feelings of joy at the first stage of paravastha to the next stage where the bodily bliss fades into the background and the joy becomes more predominant. And then the next stage from that is that the joy matures and you feel this sense of contentment as the bodily bliss sensations, the bodily rapture, disappear from one's awareness. The breath pattern changes, so the breath is more slight. The mind becomes more still. And then the next stage, where that matures yet again, and one is drawn into this state of dharana, where the feelings of the bodily bliss are gone, where the joy has matured to the state of equanimity and great stillness, and the mind is very still. So you're moving through this state of successive absorption. One may become then absorbed in all sorts of things that manifest in meditation naturally. So one may experience, after that point, this great expansion, this boundless space. One may experience the sense of the boundless space and the boundless consciousness that permeates that space, and so on and so on. And so the devotion that springs up, the internal joy that springs up from the unfolding of absorption is what true devotion is about, what true bhakti is about. Because we are going beyond the mind's concept of the divine into an actual experience, one's inner experience of one's true nature. And the reason I raise this is that when one's approach to devotion in Kriya Yoga is very much about trying to project something outwards, trying to say Om Rama, Om Krishna, and creating this mental disturbance inside, and trying to build up the emotional fervor, it goes against the trajectory in absorption, which leads to natural devotion. And the two cannot exist simultaneously. So if one practices this outward devotion, this outward projection of one's thoughts, one is creating ripples in the mind. One is creating disturbance in the body. One is interfering with the natural course of one's breath, because that form of devotion, that type of practice of devotion, is really about a projection of one's desire. And that projection of one's desire will interfere with the natural process of absorption. One may be inclined to have some kind of, Ishtadevata. One may want to, pray to that Ishtadevata and so on. But I really suggest that we use Lahiri Baba's example instead. What he would tell his disciples after he had an experience, if he was able to articulate it, is that he became one in his absorbed state with his Ishtadevata. I am one with Kali, etc. And it was because he allowed the process of absorption to bring up his true devotion, rather than trying to project an idea about what he thought devotion is about. There's a big difference here. The outward expression of devotion is just that, an outward expression. It's like an echo of one's true inner experience of devotion. And the best way to approach one's devotion is to allow it to unfold naturally. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.